What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about The Crew shutting down. So, partially a news story. We'll go over what's going on, but also a little bit more of a rant. I've talked many times. Actually, every time a game does this, I do make it a point to make a video on it. I feel like it's important. I feel like, obviously, we're seeing this trend continue, and it's really bad. I don't want to jump to that part of the story just yet. Let's talk about what's actually going on. So, The Crew has actually been delisted, and that's step one of, killing it off entirely. So I believe as of right now, the only way of actually getting this game, if you don't have it, already bought, would be physical. Now, you can do that, but the issue is at the end of March, the final day of March, the servers are being shut off. Now, because this is a always online game, the game is dead. The game will be dead. Now, we talked about, like I said, I do this for all of these kind of things. We talked about Knockout City. That one is probably the worst of the group for the simple idea that it's like The Crew, that once you take the servers offline, you kill the game, right? So it's got to have that part to it. We've talked about the Dead Spaces of the world and the Bad Companies of the world. We actually talked about those on my retrospective channel, Podcast Now Back to the Past. And, one nice way of looking at it is, okay, well, you kill the multiplayer, but you don't kill the whole game. You can still play Dead Space 2. You can still play Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2, although I think those games are delisted, so you'd have to have them physically, and then you could only play the story. You can't play the multiplayer because the servers were shut down, right? So you kind of like partially kill it, but you don't kill the whole thing. Knockout City is pretty bad because you killed the entire thing, and it's only been 2 years from the point that it launched to the point where they shut the game down. It was actually just 2 years. So that's not great, and that's probably the worst example I myself have looked at. The Crew maybe this would be the second, worst example or worst case, because it's, again, another example of this game's dead. You will not be able to play, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. You will not be able to play this game literally once they shut it down, even if you have it physically. Now, the only difference that makes it slightly better than Knockout City, but not by much. This game is a little old, depends on your definition of old. It's, it's several years. I actually remember, I don't think I still have it. I bought this game physically, and I had it in my hand, and I didn't really care about it all that much. I'm not a racing guy. I've tried to make myself a racing guy multiple times, and I just couldn't do it for this. Just like any other of these racing games, they all can't get me. But so I actually do remember putting this in and having this artwork behind me. I remember that at the box cover of the game. And it's not a terrible game. Obviously, it spawned a franchise. It literally spawned The Crew franchise. We just had a new game in this franchise a month ago. So, it's staying strong. But in terms of what the anger, inside me kind of wants to say, I've seen tweets that have said something along the lines of, 20 years from now, or even 5-10 years now, when you have children, when you, the viewer right now, has a child, and you say, hey, I want to play, some of my childhood games with my, kid, you're not going to be able to. The older or the longer this goes, the more this trend continues, there's going to be an entire generation, and then that's just the norm going forward, where you literally will not be able to do that, right? My parents could have done that, and they did to an extent with me. I got into Crash Bandicoot because my dad bought me Crash Bash. He was actually playing Max Payne. It was the first, I didn't even know what Max Payne was. He's not a big gamer, but he got me into a few. You'll never, at least for examples like this, that is going to die out. Now, not entirely, so never is probably not the right word, right? But it should scare you. Maybe not you and me. We kind of know what's up. But people that are just flat out okay with this, and I'll tell you who shouldn't be okay with this the most, is the people that supported it. Right? I had to have, because I don't have it physically anymore. So I must have traded it into GameStop or whatever. But the people that got the game day one, and this is a game that had DLCs or micro, let's just say that, right? I don't actually know if it had full on, what you would classify as DLCs, but there are ways of putting money into the game to, get stuff back, right? And you could still do it, up till this point. So what about the people that sunk $200 into this game? And this is the problem, by the way, with the whole thing. This is why it's upset. Well, it's maybe not the entire problem. I think just the general idea that you're taking a game away and the idea of like you literally cannot play it. But it all kind of revolves around theft. And maybe I'm stretching that definition, but I guess that actually probably is the basic point. If you have this game physically, the disc in your hand, it's not worth anything once they shut it down, because you put the disc in and it doesn't do anything, right? So you've stolen like the purpose of that disc. If you have it digitally, well, again, like you bought it, you're not going to be. So the idea that you paid money just for the base game, we'll talk about, the microtransactions in a second. You bought the base game and you literally will not be able to get anything back from that money, that purchase. You won't be able to get it back. And that should upset anybody that has it, I think. Now, I know it's old, but like it's still the point. The point actually doesn't diminish because the game is old. I have CDs, music from my dad, like got me into certain bands. I have Green Day albums and I have a Smashing Pumpkins album, the original, from 1995. That was before I was even born. That still works. I can put it in. They didn't take that music away. They didn't say, well, on this date in 2020 that you're not going to be able to, when you put the CD in, you can't listen to the music. Like, that would be insane, right? Because you own it. It's yours. But for games, obviously, it's not the same thing at all, And again, that's if you buy just the base game. If you buy the base game and then say you put in money on microtransact, and this goes into Knockout City and anything else. If you did Bad Company and you got the DLCs that also had maps, more, whatever, guns, variety, whatever, you're putting in extra money that they're also taking that from you because you won't be able to play it anymore. So, I say the same thing, I'm sure, in all of these videos, but I think it's important to kind of hammer the point home. I think a lot of the people that, are probably even watching it right now, we're all on the same page. But there actually are people online that are not. And then I guess, as we've actually talked about with other kind of topics, I've done on these channels, I guess the bigger issue is this is bigger than us. Like, we're a small group. We're a small circle. And I think we know what's going on, and we do our best to kind of combat it in our own way. But like the average gamer, I guess at the end of the day, doesn't care. If they did care, if this was a big issue to everybody, truly everybody, it wouldn't happen, right? Because there would be like severe consequences to doing this kind of stuff, and it just doesn't. They get away with this. And, this is not like a bad, like, I know Ubisoft is everybody's favorite, like, punching bag. I think they have done some very bad stuff. I think they're kind of right before their redemption phase. I think they can do a redemption phase. They're not great, I'll say that, but it's not a Ubisoft thing. Like, this is Ubisoft, but Knockout City, that's not Ubisoft. Bad Company, that's EA. Dead Space, that's EA. I guess they did do this with like Assassin's Creed multiplayer, like earlier on. But again, you don't kill the full game when you do that. You kill part of it, which is still bad. But you only kill part of it. And these other examples, sometimes they're only part of it. When you kill the entire game, obviously that's a bigger issue, at least to me. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.